Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.
But Mr. Myra, I think it comes back to the basic question, is there an idea for India? Is there an idea of India? The 12th plan has articulated what we would like to see as far as the India story is concerned, the areas of focus, the areas of priority. But what comes of it if year after year, plan after plan, that idea of India remains only on paper? How do you ensure that that idea of India is actually translated into reality?
We have devised, and this is the idea for India if you want to say, an India backbone implementation network is corresponding to TQM. We wish to make available tools that we have located, where results are coming, how are they coming? People did something after all. Can we distill the essence of what they did, convert it into a tool, into a process, and let people start in their own places, whether panchayat, village, so on, get things done. Please, let's get things done. So that's the idea, a one-point plan. Learn to implement and get it done.
Learn to implement and get it done. Easier said than done, Mr. Myra, unfortunately, in the situation that we're faced with. But Manish Tiwari, just talking about this, let's get our hands dirty and let's get things done. Simple things. I'm not even talking about the controversial stuff. Education, for instance. We cannot decide whether we want in our country education to be for profit so that we actually can sort out the supply-demand constraints that this country is faced with, or we want to continue to constrain the education sector so that people are lining up outside schools and colleges, people have nowhere to go and are being forced to look for education outside of India. This has been something that your government promised they would find a solution to, and yet, session after session, we haven't even seen the bill being moved in Parliament yet. We have no discussion on between various arms of the government. The Human Resource Department sees it one way, the Planning Commission sees it one way. This is education we're talking about. Can't we at least agree on the basics?
What we are expecting is that the central government by a Ditkat will be able to fix everything. Let's not forget, education is in the concurrent list. A large part of education is really administered by the states. Health is totally in the state list.
One sec, I completely agree with you, but the point that I was trying to make is that what stops the center from providing the enabling legislation? The land acquisition bill, for instance, again, the states have the right to actually decide what they want to do. You are giving the states an enabling legislation. You're giving them a model legislation. The Standing Committee made some recommendations. You acceded to some of them. You didn't accede to some. So you've actually been able to push forward with a bill that most states weren't actually in agreement with. But you've shown the courage because you believe that this will serve the purpose of India in the long term. So what stops you from doing that on other crucial issues?
Well, I think you've already done it on the other crucial issues, because you've already done it on various aspects of education. On health, I articulated it. You brought up the land acquisition bill, and let me tell you, on the land acquisition bill also, of course, this is not something which is rocket science or a state secret, but within government itself, there were very, very deep divisions as to how do you approach it. So therefore, on each of these questions which you are trying to actually untie, very knotted knots, if I was to, can use that expression, you have to go about it very slowly and deliberately, because if you misstep, for example, in India, legislation does not come with an expiry date, that after 25 years, it'll automatically get repealed. Here, once you legislate, you seem to legislate for centuries. The land acquisition bill was put into place in 1894. You are in 2012.
Yeah.
So therefore, when you are crafting legislation, you have to be extremely careful about what you do. Yes, there is a certain argument of expediency, a certain argument of urgency. But then, in that expediency or urgency, if you're going to end up hurting vital interests, which you will not be able to amend, given that you have a fragmented polity, you need to be very careful.
Mr. Myra, it may not come with an expiry date, but there has to be a cutoff. There are people who suffer on account of decisions not being taken. I mean, we can continue to say we want consultative processes to take place, we want a widespread consultation, but consultation that goes over decades.
I think, Shirin, I want to remind you where you started us off.
Yeah.
There are some things which are like enabling decisions. They sound big. That's big ticket reforms, if you want to call it. We are saying there are a million little things which, if they get done, we will get the results that we wish to have. And therefore, when you said even about the multi-brand retail, it's coming to the point saying ultimately the states will have to do something. We've got to go to the doing now and not the saying anymore. We've got to get to the doing of it.
Rajiv, final thoughts from you before I wrap it up.
Well, I'd say only this, that however simplistic it sounds, at the end of the day, all our problems are self-created. Nobody's come from outside and created them for us. And I think if there's one thing I tell myself all the time, it's this: we must know how to draw a line between growth and greed. Because we all have a legitimate desire or a right to grow. But when we cross the line between growth and greed, it's when organizations and individuals lose sight of who they are in their pursuit of reckless growth, that they diffuse themselves, and that's the beginning of the end, really. So as long as we know who we are, we stay focused, and as you said, Shireen, as long as we focus more on excellence than on scale, I think we'll be all right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, it's time for us to wrap up this session. Thank you very much.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.